Hi, this is Anna Imagination with a Healing Garden. This is a lab, more of a journal. This one is going to be more of a research journal. I want to talk, but I don't want to talk about work, but I want to reflect. I'm still in the transition of the second perspective into the U of I. I feel like there is a depth. No, there is a depth. When you get past the first perspective of the U of I, there is just depth. And it's the internalization of what you learned from the first 12 perspectives. It's so deeper. It's so much deeper. This began for me on the 16th of December when I cured narcissism. And everything's changed since then. It's been very hard. After curing narcissism, I then slipped into the first perspective. Well, no, I was in the first perspective of the U of I. You know what? I don't know when I did that. Let me take a look at my notes. Oh, it was December 1st is when I shifted into the first perspective of the U of I. And then on the 16th, I cured narcissism. And a lot has been going since then. On January 1st, that's ironic, I slipped into the second perspective of the U of I. And it's been, I had a shift of the 12 where I could see it was internalizing vulnerability at the third. And then once I internalized vulnerability, I was able to shift self-government to personal laws at the fourth, which then made me finally feel safe enough that I could finally figure out the first perspective. And when you figure out the first perspective, that's when you graduate from the first perspective. So that's how I figured it out, was I graduated from the first perspective to the second when I realized that courage was the first perspective. Courage is the choice to begin the journey, to accept the journey. It's to choose the journey. Courage is what you have to feel. It's the choosing the journey. It's very much choosing a journey. I cannot explain that to you enough, because there's a journey that happens when you finally find courage. It's a journey. The minute you decide to go out that door, Bilbo, that's that moment. That's courage. It is the choice to embark on this discovery. Choice to embark. That is the moment when you face the fear. I'm totally using the word embark here because I love ships. It's your choice to embark. It's your courage. And that is courage. The choosing to embark. And you have to do this again. The first time you do it, you're an infant. You're like 1 or 2. And you're either going to cower in your comfort zone your whole life. I hate that word cower because it's so demeaning, but you're either going to stay in your comfort zone all your life, or you're going to choose to embark. And that's it. And courage is the choice to embark. Because once you overcome that first fear, the rest are easy. But then when you're done with the 12, you have the choice now with a partner to embark again. But this time, it's not in the privacy of the self. And there is an intimacy of the self that I discovered. Well, I mean, I've always had it because I've always been public with my stuff. And there is this realization that when you choose it a second time, you're choosing to allow someone close to you. And it's surrendering. It's a surrender. My God, is it a surrender? And that's when you really find your vulnerability. And it's different this time around. I mean, I was a child the first time I went through it, so I don't know. But this feels very, very different. It definitely feels intimate. You know, I almost want to say that this is intimacy. And it also feels weird that, because I'm here, but it's different. It's like there's courage, and then there's courage 2.0. And that's what you get when you do it a second time. You find a whole nother depth to courage, because you have to choose to take on the journey of confronting your fears for you. And you have to face your vulnerability. You have to choose to be open. Oh. To receive, which can also lead to pain. Open, Janus, New Year's. I was wrong. Oh, I love it when I'm wrong. Oh my God, do I love it when I'm wrong. Oh, I love it when I'm wrong. Every time I'm wrong, I get to correct something. Oh, I love being wrong. Where is it? I have a thing here that I wrote earlier. It's not open door, open invitation. It's vulnerability. So it's giving, receiving gratitude, and then vulnerability. You're open to receive vulnerability. There it is. Giving, receiving gratitude, and then openness. That's what it is. It's openness. That's it right there. So the first ethic is having the courage to even begin this transaction. That is it right there. Courage is having is choosing to embark on this transaction. And like I said, this is just going to get deeper and deeper. And the further I go, the more I'm going to gain deeper insight into each one of these elements. And it's just going to go over and over again. So I'm going to be revising these and cleaning them up sharper and sharper as I go through them. But I feel vulnerable, which is probably why I took away all comments and everything, is because I do feel vulnerable. And this time, I took my healing to my partner. I spoke to him with my perspective. I almost never speak to people with my perspective. I do when I write. When I write, I speak in my perspective. I walk with you. I see you. Maybe in this space. I should speak with my perspective. Every speak has a culture, every perspective has a culture to it. And mine, the 12th perspective, has its own culture. It's a culture and a language that I understand very clearly because I'm here. It's very different. I see you. I walk with you. I walk with my partner. He is my mirror. He is my U of I. He is my chosen mirror. There. That is the U of I. It is your chosen mirror. Now I'm understood. Now I am saying. When I write to my partner, I speak to him sometimes in common perspective. And sometimes I speak to him in his perspective. And every now and then I speak to him in my perspective. Today I explained this to him. I broke it down and I gave him a letter written all in my language. I will read it to you. I posted it. Many times I post my letters to him because it's part of my healing. But this time I decided to take him with me in my healing instead of exclude him. I walk with you. I trust you. You are my king. You are my U of I. My chosen mirror. I surrender to you. I give you unconditional belonging. You have time and space to grow always with me. I give you patience from me. I receive you always exactly as you are. This is my speech. This is how I talk in my world and in my cultural perspective. These are the vulnerabilities I give to you. You do not have to receive them. They are a gift. You have them regardless of what you choose, because you are my king and my U of I. And I walk with you because that is my belonging. I walk with you because that is my belonging. And I surrender to you because I trust you completely. And I want you to see me as I am because I love you without profit or gain. Sometimes I write to you from my cultural perspective, and sometimes I write to you from yours, and sometimes I write to you in common perspective. This one is mine, and this time I wanted to share my growth with you. But for that, you have to come into my cultural perspective to know me. And it's lonely when I don't share my cultural perspective with others. Vulnerability is when we choose to share our truth. And gift our truth to others in emotional transaction. Vulnerability is truth. It is the purest truth that a person owns. But if you do not know who you are, you cannot gift it. And it is not weakness. It is pure truth. When you accept a performance of a stage and you sit in the audience, part of that vulnerability is opening up your heart to receive the story so that you can laugh with them or you can cry with them. That is vulnerability. To be objective is to keep your heart closed to experience such emotions. Connection is to experience emotions with others. This is connection. And in many cases, it is done without our knowledge or consent. But we don't know it. Because we all forgot this, didn't we? I know we did. It must be consensual, and we must know about it. We must know about it. Because if we do not know about it, how can we give consent? This is literally the most important information we have in the world, and it was taken from us. It was not written down. It was deemed so valuable that they never wrote it down. And the only reason why I know is because of Christ. That is why. Because the more I work on this stuff and the more I piece it all together, I'm looking at Buddha, I'm looking at Christ, and I'm going, they're saying the same thing. But what they're saying is literally pieces of my big picture. And my big picture is pieced together and translated. I'll show you the roadmap later. This was oral tradition. And this is what we lost when we lost Alexandria. So I'm standing here in the second perspective. And I'm feeling very vulnerable and I just want to cry a lot. Oh. 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 It's the swinging pendulum. Oh, this is going to be a tough one. It is a swinging pendulum. One leads to courage. Two, indulgence in vulnerability. Oh, yay. Three, it's going to be an integration of vulnerability with, I didn't feel vulnerable. I felt the opposite of closed. Comfort zone. Comfort. Indulgence in comfort. There's the rest of the first perspective. It's indulgent in comfort, which leads to courage to become vulnerable. And courage. And then the second perspective is indulgence in vulnerability and leaving because you're sick of the indulgence in comfort. It's the adventure. Indulgence in vulnerability and leaving the comfort to indulge in the adventure and exposure. Vulnerability is just exposure. That's all it is. Wow, that's so simple. It's exposure. It's the adventure. That makes so much sense. And then the third perspective is integration into both. It is valuing the comfort with the courage. That makes so much more sense. It is indulgence in comfort and then indulgence in exposure. And it's the exposure. Open, go. This is makes so much sense. Indulgence in comfort. That is what the child in the first year of life has. They're sick of all the comfort and there's no risk. Oh, they crave the risk. That's exactly how I felt. I got sick and tired of the comfort. So you shift priorities to value the danger, to value the adventure, the danger, the exposure, the vulnerability. Because you crave the risk now. And then in the third perspective, you integrate the courage, the comfort with the adventure. And in so doing, you learn. A third perspective, which I haven't gotten to yet because I'm not there yet. I don't know. That makes so much sense. So that's the first perspective. That makes sense. An infant, when the child is born, spends a year literally living in the life of luxury and comfort until they're sick of it because they're bored with comfort. We have a relationship with comfort. Oh, addiction makes so much more sense now. Oh, yes. This is like the juice. This is all just like, oh, I love perspective shifts. Yes, I am definitely in the second perspective now. Shit, damn, this is beautiful stuff. So upon the entering of the second perspective, you basically shift. And that's is when you swing to the other side. You become, basically it's an indulgence. You become so indulgent on X that you get sick of it. And then you swing the other way. And for me, it was comfort because I had the 12 perspectives. I had them all down. I was bored with the comfort of the knowing. But there's no growth in it. Now, is there? I craved growth. And for me, growth meant being vulnerable with a partner. And I've chosen. I have made my choice. I'm going to say it because it's been on my mind a lot. You know, Romeo and Juliet were 12 years old. I'm beginning to think they had the 12 perspectives, which is why when you get to the 12th perspective, you're ready to seek out another love, which is why Romeo and Juliet were 12 years old. Like, I can't get that out of my mind. That's been playing around a lot in my head. Juliet was 12. Juliet was 12. Juliet had the 12 perspectives. So Juliet was able to say, oh, I'm ready to find a partner now because it's time to embark on the next voyage of partnership. He is my mirror, my chosen mirror. That is the U of I, the chosen mirror. I'm sitting here looking through everybody, going, all right. It's so funny because I did like this whole, I'm going to write out my dream man or my dream partner, and I wrote them all out. And I really did a great job separating him from the ideal. I was so proud of me. And I went, okay, well, it's either going to be him or it's going to be someone else that's better than him because look at this. And that's when I realized I wanted to be vulnerable with him. But in order for that to happen, I needed to surrender. I really want to say that forgiveness is part of this. It's part of this part of the perspective. Because right after that, I felt this massive surrendering. So I really think surrendering is like what you walk away from with the first perspective of the U of I. It's surrendering. Now, my partner and I have a 2-year history. 2.5 years now. This is a massive transaction. All of this is just a massive transaction. But I feel the added advantage that I have where I'm like, okay, this is definitely the gifting, the receiving. And when I wrote it all down and I realized that I needed to choose my U of I, it was like, oh, well, that's, I got it. And I can see now, this is big, how very much the self must be defined prior to partnership. That is big. Now, no, that is my biggest regret, is not having done this work before I knew him. And it's weird because it really doesn't matter if he doesn't choose me. It really doesn't. And that's a huge part of this, is my choice is not reflective on his choice. It's not, I'm going to choose someone who wants me. It isn't, I'm going to choose somebody who will get me something. This is void of narcissism. This is wisdom love. Because love is without profit or gain. All the love I need is myself. This is just self-love. It's as if I am a servant to the U of I. And in the I of I am the queen. And I first and foremost serve myself. But in the U of I am a knight. And my U of I is the king. And I am servant and knight to the king. And I have my queen. I don't need him to choose me, because already I have chosen him. And it's not contingent upon his choice. It's not contingent upon his feelings. It is mine. And it's, yeah, I have no idea what's over there yet. I have no idea what the day of I is going to turn into, but I can see that now. Like, so in the eye of I, it's I am the queen and I serve the queen. And I had a long relationship with the queen. But that's first. That's primary. And with the U of I, I'm taking on the role of servant and knight for the king. But the king is secondary to the queen. The U of I is secondary. to the queen. This is wisdom love, by the way. Because if the queen is not operating and functioning and defined, well, the king is moot. And I can't learn how to be, you have to learn how to be a queen before you can learn how to be a servant. And it is imperative that the queen learns how to serve. Now that's just dom talk. That's very much my dominatrix coming out. That's a rule that I have when I do my BDSM shit. That's a law for me. Is if you want to be a dom, you have to master submission. I've always believed that. That's one of my ethics. If you want to rule, you have to master submission. No ruler who has not mastered submission has any right to that position. I really don't know what comes next. I'm very curious to find out. So yeah. I have a feeling I'm going to be feeling very vulnerable for the next month at least. Like this entire perspective is just going to be me being vulnerable. So I'm going to cry a lot. Because I feel really exposed right now. It's not weak. It's exposed, people. It's exposed. It isn't weak at all. It is the greatest of strength. I know. This isn't weak at all. Rewrite the damn dictionaries, please. Because this is not weak. Vulnerable is the greatest strength. It doesn't hurt. It's just exposed. It's like, oh, every Whovian fan is going to love this. It's like an ood. It is exactly like an ood. How could we ever think that vulnerable was weak? Who did that? Who started it? Vulnerable is not weak. This is strength. This is an extraordinary strength. And this is what I mean by the words are all wrong. Because we think vulnerable is weak, when vulnerable is pure exposure, and that takes the greatest strength. So why are the words all wrong? Exposed. It's the greatest strength there is. I don't even know where to begin with this one. Vulnerable. I'll tell you how. I know how. The reason why we think vulnerable is weak is a lie we tell ourselves to avoid it. The true weakness is using anger, abuse, and violence to hide our exposure and avoid, because we do not trust our own strength. That's right. The greatest strength known to man, to choose exposure, to choose full and raw honesty, transparency. How could we ever think that vulnerability is weak? This is a lie we tell ourselves to avoid exposure. The true weakness is using anger, abuse, and violence to hide our exposure because we do not trust our own strength. Because we do not think we can save ourselves. Because we lack courage. That's right. Insecurity, not knowing who we are in that hypothetical future scenario. It truly is irrelevant what he wants, what he desires, and what he feels. Irrelevant in the sense of it does not change my choice. It's irrelevant to my choice. My choice does not violate him. Interesting. And it doesn't. My choice is for me. It is not for him. This is loyalty to the defined self. I do believe I finally found somebody who is worthy of my loyalty. Me. Loyal. Loyal to the choice of future self. There. That's it. This is really putting a lot in perspective for me. I don't know what to do. I can tell you right now, this is going to be a very, very difficult perspective. I know this. This is going to be a very difficult perspective to get through. Okay. All right. Vulnerable is strength. Wow. That explains why you need fucking courage to get through it. Here's the thing. Children have not yet usually known abuse by the time they go through this. But adults do. Which is why a second perspective child will run all over the place naked, exposed. They have no concept of danger. How courageous, really, truly can we be if we are taking risks? And here's the beautiful thing. This is evolution. This is not something that if you don't have this information, you're not going to do it. Nope. Oh, you're doing it. This is naturally how we grow. This is the order of operations of our growth. You're going to do it if you live long enough. So it's interesting to see it change like this. It's really interesting. Oh, I can feel it in my brain. Oh, I can feel the juice. Oh, I love it. Okay, so physical symptoms. Physical symptoms. Oh, yeah, there it is. I was waiting for this. I'm like, where is it? So when you have a perspective shift, you feel all the chemicals right here down your spinal cord. It's all up and down your neck, in the back of your cerebellum. And then it's all literally like from the cerebellum and the back of the neck. It is like a chemistry lab right there. It's the rewiring of the nervous system. It's really fucking cool. I don't know if you can feel it. I know I can feel it. And I know that the other people who shift perspectives, my one other person who reported it, she could feel it. So my hypothesis is that everyone can start to feel it. It is the rewiring of your nervous system as you shift perspectives. That is what causes the perspective sickness. So and yet you do get physical symptoms from this. This is awesome. You do get physical. What time is it? 12:47 p.m. Let's actually document this. So at 12:47 p.m., I could feel the rewiring of the nervous system. Yeah, I'm going to get sick tonight. I should just stay on camera with you guys and just document this whole thing. I could feel the rewiring of the nervous system as the perspective shifted from the first perspective, U of I, to the second perspective of U of I. And I'm wondering, and this is something that I really do wonder about. I wonder if, yeah, I can feel it. My cognitive core right here, and I can feel my brain just getting bigger. Like I can feel that right there. I can feel that. So this is where I'm asking my brain people, my neuroscientists, I know this is the cognitive core. I know this is the frontal cortex, but what is this part right there? I'm going to look it up. And it's always the same spot. It's always there. What is that part in front of the optic eye? The optic eye, the optic nerve. Parts of the brain. Parts of the brain. Yeah, I know it's the frontal lobe. Let's look at parts of the frontal lobe. Parts of the frontal lobe. Not love, lobe. Parts of the frontal lobe. Just tell me frontal lobe. Oh, this is a gorgeous diagram. Inferior frontal sulcus, superior frontal sulcus, presental sulcus. What the fuck is a sulcus? Presental gyrus. Oh, I love this stuff. Temporal. No, that's the temporal lobe. Yeah. Oh, anatomy of the brain. Yeah, this is gorgeous. Yeah, the cerebellum. I feel a lot of, it's always right there in the cerebellum. Oh, this one shows me the hippocampus and the amygdala, like right next to each other. Oh, this is a nice one. Ooh, I love it when they give me like, see here. That's the hippocampus. Oh, I see. And then amygdala is there. Fornix, parietal lobe, yeah. Yeah, the frontal lobe. Okay, what I need is a breakdown of the frontal lobe. The gyri, that's the gyri of the frontal lobe. It's the gyri of the frontal lobe. Yeah, I'm fascinated by this. All right, let me see. All right, I just lost the computer. I am so computer inept. It's disgusting. All right, there we go. Orbital, the orbital. Inferior cranial fossa. I think it's inferior. It's always right there, like always. And it's now, and I can feel the heat. I also have a significant amount of heat in my body now. Like I can feel it dumping heat, yeah. Lateral frontal polar cortex. No, thank you. Lateral frontopolar cortex. Lateral frontopolar cortex. It's a lot easier doing this with the internet rather than doing my encyclopedia set. That was fucking difficult. It was also simple too, but I remember having books all over my floor. That's what I want. Frontopolar. That's my frontopolar. What are you doing? Monitoring a few alternative task goals for possible re-engaging when the problem of the task, and then this big monitoring the current goal for possible redistribution of cognitive control resources to other potential goals. Boom! Medial frontopolar cortex does this, monitoring the current goal for possibly redistributing cognitive control resources to other potential goals. That's what I'm feeling. That's my priority shifting. That's what that is. That's why I feel priority shifting. Aha! That explains so much. These are my priorities happening. Okay. And my priorities are shifting to allowing myself to be open and exposed. And standing here, I feel like Inigo Montoya in the middle of Princess Bride, where he's drunk and this is where I am and this is where I'm gonna stay. And that is exactly how I feel. This is where I am and this is where I'm gonna stay. And that is exactly what I feel. Like I feel formidable right now. Yeah? Yeah? I'm vulnerable. I'm so fucking exposed. This isn't fucking weak. What? Who said this was weak? No. There is nothing stronger than this. Wow. Wow. This is determination. But it's not stubborn. Stubborn is such a toxic word. Don't use it. It's not stubborn. No, it's not stubborn at all. It's called determination. These are the grow words. Determination. Vulnerable. Oh, I love vulnerable. Oh, I love it. What's the fruit of this? It's like, what's the fruit? What's the fruit of this? What is the psychological fruit? Psychological fruit of vulnerability. Oh, I bet you it's human connection. I really love me right now. By the way, high, drunk, those are some of the symptoms. Every time you feel high and you feel drunk on this shit. I'm sober right now. It's all the chemicals in my brain. Oh, this is so funny. Yes. Human connection. Oh, I found another fruit, which means I can find all of the other fruits because I know how to now. Oh, I love this stuff. All right. I need to get paid for this shit. Okay, so psychological fruit. We have control. We have respect. We have sex. We have money. Human connection is now a fruit.
Can you use this?
No. You're welcome. Anything in the house, you're welcome to, Dan. You don't have to ask.
I didn't know if you got it on first.
No, I appreciate it, but it's a free community here. Control, respect, sex, money. I want to say it's love. Now, love has no gain. Like, love is... All right, so control, respect, sex, money. Yeah, that's it. And human connection. I found another fruit. So human connection is the result of vulnerability, which is only achieved through the emotional transaction that occurs during gifting. Oh, see, I get this now. All right. Emotional transaction leads to vulnerability. That's Janus. That is what happens in January, which is really like, it's poetic. It's very poetic. All right. So vulnerability then leads to human connection. So if you want human connection, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you your vulnerability. Surrender. You literally, so emotional transaction is the process of surrendering. Ooh. See, that makes sense now. Oh, yeah. Totally feeling. Oh, and there's the chemicals. So there's a taste. There's always a taste. It tastes like chemicals. There's always a taste. Yeah, I am totally moving into the second perspective. Yeah, there's always a taste. Now, I'm well past the metaphysical transformation stage. Dudes. The metaphysical transformation stage, metaphysical transformation. I'm going to tell you, it's a doozy. It's hard. It's okay. Like, really, it's all right. Metaphysical transformation is literally schizophrenia. So all of these poor people who were diagnosed with schizophrenia were actually suffering from metaphysical transformation. Now, part of that, and I've been through the symptoms of schizophrenia so many times, I've walked through it. And if you do not know, it's scary as fuck. Now, I had the added advantage of already being told that I was crazy. So, and I already had literally every mental illness in the world. So by the time I came to, and they diagnosed me, they didn't diagnose me, they tested me for schizophrenia and they ruled it out. See, this is how I know shit. Is in 2015, they tested me for schizophrenia and they were like, yeah, you don't have it. They deliberately checked for schizophrenia. And that is metaphysical transformation. And it was actually, it's Benedict Cumberbatch's fault. I saw the ad on Amazon Prime for his cat, for Lois Wane's cats, The Electrical Life of Lois Wayne on Amazon. And I'm going to watch that today. When I saw it, I went, oh my God, he can see the world like I can see the world. His cats are what you see during these stages of perspective growth. And when you see the cats as they get no, that is metaphysical transformation. Except he can paint and I can't. So he painted it all out and I went, no, he can see it. That's what you see. That's where you go, oh my God, oh my God. And you can feel electricity. It's the metaphysical transformation. So I'm going to tell you right now, it's a doozy. It starts around the sixth perspective when you grab all those amethysts and you start shoving them up your butt and you're going, oh my God, Mercury retrograde. It has begun. You are starting your metaphysical transformation. That's what's going on with you. And it's okay. You're going to be fine. The shift stops at the 10th perspective. When you finally learn the lesson, you got to let those emotions ebb and flow, man. And that's all you learn during the 10th perspective. As soon as you enter into the 10th perspective, you finally value your emotions and the freedom of your emotions. So you go, you know what? They're in charge now. It's so funny. It's like a breaking point. The 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th. And you get to the end of the 9th and you go, you surrender yourself to the emotional lack of control. That's what happens in the 9th. It's so nice to finally have the vocabulary to say the shit. In the 9th perspective, you surrender yourself to control. You surrender. You give up all control. You say, you know what? Fuck it. Emotions, take me. And that's it. That is the ninth. That is what you learn at the end of the ninth perspective, is you just say, fuck it, and you surrender to the emotions. When that happens, the metaphysical transformation stops. It ends because you've gotten through that point of understanding that you need to just let the emotions come and go as they choose. And you get real cozy with your emotions and you indulge in the world of emotional world. And then you get so like everything's about the emotions that you get so sick of it that you just crave logic. So you know what? Enough emotions. I'm going to go over here to logic now. You can still ebb and flow, but I'm going to go over to logic. Now, that was an old friend of mine. So when I moved into the 11th perspective, I was home. I was like, wow. So the 11th perspective and I were like this. It was my favorite perspective. For me, it was my favorite perspective because I was in that mindset from the time I was 15 to 35. True story. From 15 to 35, all I did was logic. So, and that was because that was my priority. I'm a logician. That was like my happy place. So when I shifted into the 11th perspective, I was like, oh, I remember this. I had so many happy memories. It was so nostalgic. The 11th perspective was pure nostalgia for me. It was hilarious. It was like, oh yeah, I remember that time period for 20 years when I talked a lot like Spock. Oh yeah. What is it called? I cannot remember. It's what is it? Ponfar? The Vulcan word for pure logic. I achieved it. I want to say it's not Ponfar. That's their mating ritual. It's the state of come on. What's it called? It's so infuriating. It is such a Star Trek thing. And why am I not able to find it? It is so annoying right now. Oh, Kolinar. There it is. Kolinar. That's it. It's Kolinar. I lived in Kolinar. I was there. I achieved it. And I lived in Kolinar from the time I was 15 to the time I was 35. I successfully suppressed all of my emotions for like 20 years. True story. Like I had no emotions for 20 years. I was all about the logic. Now, what that did was it was literally problem solving and overcoming the emotional turmoil with problem solving. I was so like, problem solve, fix this, just get yourself through it. So I was all gung-ho about problem solving and getting myself through things. So I found Kolinar. And I also found the toxicity of Kolinar. So when I got back to the 11th perspective, I was there again. And I was like, oh, nostalgia. I loved it. I was home. And then at the 12th perspective, you realize that the emotions have to be free to ebb and flow. So it's like your free spirit with Kolinar and they merge. And when that happens, it's like, it's happiness. And that's when you find love, when you successfully merge Kolinar with free spirited, got to let the feelings flow. That's when you find peace. Oh, and happiness. Happiness was in the first perspective. Yeah, I remember that. And joy. I was like, I feel joy. I feel peace. I feel happiness. Happiness was amazing. So now I'm feeling surrendering, the relinquishing of all control. Wow. Yeah, that's another thing I'm feeling right now. The relinquishing of all control. The relinquishing of all control. What is this? Yeah, and I can feel it. Yeah. Well, I sit completely exposed with my vulnerability. No, completely exposed. Exposed means vulnerability. Why would they ever call this weak? Not weak. Absolutely not weak. My God. This takes fucking strength. Easily. Yeah. This makes so much sense. Oh, I'm so excited. So emotional transactions is so it's the surrendering, which gets you the emotional transaction, which leads to the vulnerability, which gets you the human connection. You cannot feel human connection without the vulnerability, the exposed. It is the becoming exposed. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. I don't think control is a fruit. I think it's a delusion. There's a few words like that that are delusions, and control is a delusion. You know what? I remember this concept. I was 19 years old, and I was watching Instinct with Cuba Gooding Jr. and Anthony Hopkins. I had just read The Lord of the Flies, and then I watched Apocalypse Now. Yeah, that's right. I read Lord of the Flies, and then I watched Apocalypse Now, and then I watched the movie Instinct. Yeah, that was one of my favorite life lessons that I put together. I was watching Apocalypse Now, and at the end of the movie, I went, I have to read Lord of the Flies. I don't know why. I have to read it. So I went out and I got Lord of the Flies, my copy, the one that I have right now, and I read it. And I read it like I could not understand it 5 years ago. And I went, oh, I really need to reread it like right now. For some reason, everything in my body is telling me it's time I read it again. I need to read this again. I need to read Lord of the Flies again. Something's going on. There's information in here that's going to lead to authority. This is my favorite book, by the way. Like, of all the books in the world, this is it. And then right after that, I watched Instinct by, with Cuba Gooding Jr. And there's this moment. Something's coming together. Authority. Control doesn't exist. Control is a delusion. See, that's what Anthony Hopkins said with Cuba, as he put him on the table. He goes, what did you lose? What did you lose? And he wrote down control, and he goes, no, control is a delusion. What did you really lose? And he wrote down the delusion. He goes, that's right. You lost the delusion of control. And that's really, it is you versus your delusions. Really, that's what you're up against, is the Matrix. The Matrix is a delusion. That's what the Matrix is. It is what they want you to see. It's the delusion. That's really what you grieve when you lose something. You lose the delusion. Yeah. Control does not exist. Authority and power do. Now, authority is very clear. Power is very clear. But delusion? No. Respect is given. All these things. Yeah, control. No, I can see. No, control is not a delusion, because control is only something that can be. Oh, is that beautiful? Pow. Oh, I figured it out. Control is gifted power. That is control. It is gifted power. You do not get control. It has to be given to you. It is gifted power. That's it. Authority is how you use your power and who gets the power. Value is power. So the authority is the choice of value. It's choosing what you value. It's choosing the priority. And in so doing, it transfers. Power is energy. Yes, we know this. Power is energy. And energy has to be transferred with choice. Oh, this is making so much more sense. This is another symptom, by the way, of shifting perspectives, is as soon as you shift a perspective, you have so much insight and you suddenly, everything makes sense. So you're just sitting here going, oh, that makes sense. And you start to look at all of the work that you've done prior and it gets clearer and sharper. And suddenly everything makes much more sense than it is. So authority is the choice of where you're going to put your value, of what you're going to value. Authority is choosing what you value. And that is the transfer of power. Because if you value money, you are now giving money power over you. Authority is the transference of that power through what you value. So that when you decide to prioritize, when you decide to value, you are transferring power to something or someone. Now, you can gift power, and that is called control. So someone can receive their power over you, and then they have control over you. And people will try and take control. This is where the whole transaction again becomes non-consensual, is when they try and take control. You can't take control. It has to be gifted. What you have done is forced exposure to somebody in an attempt to get the human connection, in an attempt to get sex, in an attempt to get respect or money or control. But that's the delusion. That is the delusion. That what you get is rape. You don't get sex. What you get is theft. You don't get money. And you sure as fuck don't get human connection. Oh, you can try, but that's banned from you. These psychological fruits are off limits to violators. You cannot get those unless there is consent. It is that simple. And the very first thing they tell you when you are a rape victim and you're talking to somebody is they say, that is not sex. That is not sex. And it's a whole different, oh, it's not? Completely different thing. Completely different thing. Because sex is something else and I haven't figured that out yet. I've been celibate, so I haven't been able to do any psychology work on that. I'm still trying to figure it out. What I really think it is manifestation. It is definitely energy. It is definitely manifested energy. It is directed energy. It's definitely directed energy through connection. It is an act that allows you to direct the energy of human connection. Yeah. Still doing a lot of work with that I'm still trying to figure out. I have a lot of hypotheses that I won't be able to figure out until and unless. So authority is the choice. Authority is literally choice. It's the power of choice. There you go. Authority is the power of choice. And I've said that so many times. Authority is the power of choice. And what gets your power is the choice on what you value and what you prioritize. And you can transfer that power through the choice you make. So authority is choice, bottom line. Now, someone comes in, and this is really the big delusion. Someone comes in and says, oh, you can't do that. And they've contradicted you. You have the power of choice. You can say, oh, I can't. You can say, fuck you and do it anyway. Or, and that's it. You can choose to ignore the value. The fact that you value somebody who tells you what you can't do. That's the problem. And that's what a lot of us do, is we value people who tell us we can't. And that's the very first crux. That's the very first step of abuse, is when you value somebody who abuses you. Yeah, I am definitely like tasting chemicals again. Yeah. All right. So and I'm burning up. I can feel it. It's all happening. So I'm going to just document this and chill out and probably come back to document more of this change. I love documenting perspective shifts. And then as I have more epiphanies and more, oh my God, that's so cool, I will jump on and all that jazz. So thank you so much for your audience, and may the kindest of words always find you.